Hi, I'm Tara from the Marathon Mates. On this episode, you are going to meet Reece Eberhard, a local Southeast Queensland running identity. Rhys has completed over 30 marathons and recently ran the New York Marathon as his first ever major marathon. In addition to running, Rhys is also a very keen photographer. Known as the Running Paparazzi, Rhys has found a way to combine the things he loves. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
To the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone, I'm Tara and welcome to episode 82 of The Flying Runner. Tonight we're having a chat with one of our good mates, Reece Eberhard. Reece recently joined us in New York and got to experience running his first ever major marathon. Reece has a very busy year planned and tonight we're going to hear all about that as well as get Reece to share some of his tips and tricks for the back of the packers. Reece, welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you.
Excellent. And as usual, I am joined by my normal co-host, Tim, Tony, and of course, Lucia. So before I ask how you've all been, Tony, I understand that one of our listeners has reached out to ask about our training strategies.
Yes, Tara, we have had a little bit of feedback this week, which is always awesome. But before I go on to that, I just want to touch base with something. So last week, I spoke about the pre-week I was doing before training, and Tim just mentioned that I was procrastinating. I just wanted to communicate the fact that I was listening to Marathon Talk, the podcast for the World Majors, and Martin was asked about his training program and how his training has been going, and he said, and I won't quote verbatim, but words to the effect of, I feel that this week is my preparation week for getting back into training. In other words, it's a pre-week. What do you say, Lucia? It's such a thing, isn't it? It does exist.
I see. My theory about it is only the elites know about it. So, Tony, I think that puts us in a different league.
That's why Tim and I don't know about it.
It's just procrastination, guys, and you just justify it in a different way.
Yeah, it's pre-week. So anyway, so we have had lots of feedback. So a big thank you, of course, to everyone that does provide feedback. Really nice feedback from Anne Marie this week in relation to an out and back episode around Tokyo training that I put out. And thank you very much. And I really hope that it's successful for you. I know it worked for Sharon and I, and I think there's some really sound principles. But the one that has brought the most interest, Amanda has asked, what does a regular week look like for the Marathon Mates? How many times do we run? What type of sessions do we do? Speed, tempo, slow, recovery? And how many stretch and strength sessions do we do? So it's a pretty big and large question. And so based on that, Tara, I'm going to hand it back to you to take us.
Well, as you all know, I just do whatever Tim tells me to do. But now that Tim's down the Gold Coast, it's really, really hard and I've got to think for myself. So my usual week would be Pilates 3 to 4 times a week. And that's for my strength training. I do a full stretch session on Monday mornings, and that's after my long run on a Sunday. And that's just to make sure that every bit is, all my body is nice and limber and get the gunk out, as Tim likes to call it. I do just casual runs during the week, and we'll talk about that with Reece a bit later on, but one of them is a Tuesday night run, and I just catch up with friends on the morning runs, or else I'll do a treadmill run. If I do a treadmill run, which I try to do at least once a week, that will be my speed session. So I will try and run at least 5Ks of that at around about 5 to 5.5 minute pace. Obviously, depending on how my body is feeling as well. But that will be my speed session then. I don't do intervals. I don't do anything like that. Park run I usually run as a tempo run. So I try to stick around about 6 minute pace for park run. And then my long runs is about 7 minute pace. And that varies between 18 to 21 Ks depending on the week. Yeah.
Mm. So that's what Tara's looks like, Amanda. So I don't think we've got time to go through all of us, but I'm sure that over the next couple of weeks, we'll give you a little bit more detail around what our weeks look like. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Amanda. So I guess based on all of that, guys, we know what mine looks like, but we, as you said, we'll talk about everyone else's later on. Welcome to the show anyway, everyone. And I want to know how everyone else's week's been going. So Tony, let's start with you to start with.
Yeah, I had a pretty good weekend, to be honest. I'm down. It was the final pre-week before I officially started training on the 20th. So I ran 11K on Saturday, and then I ran with Sharon on Sunday when she went out for a 7K, and we ended up doing 7.5. So yeah, it was a pretty good week, to be honest. I did a tempo run there midweek. Oh, sorry, not a tempo, an interval run. And dude, can I tell you, I love my new Garmin, and it just it does everything I'm wanting it to do, wanting a watch to do. But yeah, I had a pretty good week. So didn't get to park run, and just 18 kilometers over 2 runs on the weekend. So that's what my weekend looked like.
Nice work. Excellent. Lucia, what about you?
The last week has been a bit of a quieter week because I'm in Melbourne at the moment for the tennis. So flew to Melbourne on Sunday. So Sunday is my day that I normally do my long run, but that didn't happen. Even though I could have because my flight was late. My flight was 2 hours late leaving Sydney. So just Tuesday, Thursday's run club, which is Tuesdays generally speed work, can be tempo, fartlek. Thursdays is hill work, and then Saturday I actually made it to run club because I don't get the opportunity to go every Sunday. So bit of a quieter week. Oh, and strength on Wednesday. So yeah, bit of a quieter week for me this week.
Excellent. Nice work. And Tim,
Well,
what did we do?
This week for me was a pre-week before this week. And this week's a pre-week before next week. So
I don't think we're ever going to live it down, Tony.
I say it's a thing.
Was it just a half as well?
It's all just training. But in realistic terms, I'm actually starting to prepare myself for the weeks ahead. I've got a marathon in the first week of June. So I'm on a different trajectory with my training than Tara is. So I'm starting to build up the distance. I've put in an extra training run this week. So Tuesday I did a morning run and then I did an afternoon run after work with our run club at work. It's a pretty small run club, but it's a beautiful location. We run around down here on the Gold Coast. And then where did we go? Saturday we did Kira Park Run, which again is another stunning park run course. It's part of the GC50 course that we run every year in December or November. About 400 runners on that very narrow path all starting off, Tony. So you've run that section of the path, you know how narrow it gets in that path. We're talking about maybe a 2.5 meter wide path or something like that, with 400 runners. So a crowded course, but a fun course. Went out and challenged myself with a bit of speed, and it was my fastest park run for probably 5 or 6 months there. So I was happy about that. And then afterwards, it was really nice to just literally strip out of the running gear into our togs and go straight down onto the beach and have a really lovely time running on the beach before then backing it up on Sunday for our long run, where I'm still doing 21 Ks. But this week I started off the first 3 Ks with Tara, had a comfortable speed for Tara, and then I took off and ran from 3 Ks to 14 Ks at a faster pace than what I'm usually doing, but I felt very comfortable and very easy. And then I caught Tara again with 7 Ks to go and ran home with her over the last 7 Ks. So my body's getting stronger. I'm feeling fitter. I'm feeling better for it. And I'm now starting to get to that point where February becomes a bigger month for me where I push up the distances a little bit more.
And I guess as well on the last bit of our run, I only did the 18 on Sunday, but the last 3Ks we actually come across one of our friends, Diane. So she was out there running, so she ran the last 3Ks with us as well, which was very nice. So, and Reece, what about you? Did you get to a park run this week?
No, after a couple of weeks of very early mornings, it's finally caught up with me, so I had to have a rest on Saturday, so I missed out on parkrun. But
wow, you know it is tiring if you've missed a park run. So
yeah. So this week, all I've really done is just a couple of orienteering runs, which are for me intervals and hills. But I mean, I'm just coming back from having hyperextended knee, so it's taking it easy, making sure I don't re-injure it, while trying to rebuild up some fitness for the year ahead.
Excellent. Yeah, and you've got a massive year ahead, which we're going to talk about as well. So,
just before you go on, Tara, sorry to interrupt, but you're just mentioning rest and fatigue. And I just want to give Tony some credit. The out and back you did last week, Tony, I listened to it today on sleep and the amount of sleep you need to be able to run effectively. And it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed that one. So well done.
Thank you. It's the equivalent of Tim's tip.
So my 22 hours a day is probably around about the right amount of sleep for me then, Tim.
Yeah.
Just think of me like a cat. So anyway, Lucia, last week you left us hanging with what you were doing with the Gold Coast. So do you want to give us a bit of an insight as to what was going on there?
Okay, so I'm still doing the quaddie, so that plan hasn't changed. So a good friend of mine who's also a run coach, she's helping me devise a plan that was better than the one that I had originally thought of. So instead of doing so many quaddie what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Simulation.
Thank you. We're going to do maybe just one or two of those, but focus on doing like double runs on the Saturday and Sunday to run on tight legs, and the focus is going to be on getting a fast half. She's going to push me to try and get a PB. I think she's dreaming. She's on glue. I don't think I'm at 2:37 half, but Sally being Sally, she's going to push me. Yeah. So my strategy is going to focus a little bit to more focus on the speed and build the strength up, because I can admit I don't do enough strength work.
And strength is a really, really important thing. I know myself, as soon as I don't do any strength work, the core starts going, the leg muscles start fatiguing, and you can't get that speed happening anyway. So, and Tony has described it as metronomic running with me several times. And I believe that is down to having that strength work in my legs. And also I do a lot of treadmill work, so you've got no choice but that same metronomic thing. But yeah, definitely for that one. So that's great. Good news. Excellent. Well, I guess now is the time for the other news, apart from Lucia's news. So Tim, what's been happening around the world of running?
Thanks, Tara. I know it's a big show tonight, so I'm going to be brief with the news this week. Some big news out of London in the last 24 hours or so, for our time recording now, is that they've announced the elite fields for the London Marathon. Some big names in there. In the men's field, there is Eliud Kipchoge. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's apparently leading the field. So he's coming there, and it was another big announcement from Kipchoge saying he was going to go there. As we all know, he holds the second fastest time ever recorded in the marathon, is the all-time GOAT, has won London Marathon numerous times, as well as other majors around the world. Also running as elite Jacob Kiplumo, Alexander Munyayo, Tamarit Tola, who won the gold medal at the Paris Olympics, and Sebastian Saur. So it's a pretty strong field there, but I'm more excited about what the women's field looks like. And this is probably the fastest marathon field for women ever assembled, I would say. We have a serious race with 2 world record holders and Safan Hussein. The 2 record holders are Tajist Asafa, who was the former world record holder before the current world record holder, which is Roof Chepin-Getich. So we're going to have Roop Chepin-Getich there, Tajist Asafa, Safan Hassan, Perez Chipchira, who won the gold in the Tokyo Olympics and has also won other major marathons, Megarutu Elimu, and Jocelyn Jepkosgei. So it's going to be a really quick field. And Tony, you've always said you back Safan Hussein in a race, and I think we've got a race with this one. It is going to be 3 of them racing hard and fast, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a world record in London.
Yeah, it's the last week I think we spoke about the Boston fields, and it's like London said, "Well, hold my beer," wait till you hear ours. And the women's field is amazing, absolutely amazing, and I know that I'm going to be watching that marathon from go to woe. But there's also like this Sebastian Saw. There's probably not a lot of people that know of him, but he just won Valencia in his debut marathon. And I remember when you spoke about that on our news. So 202, just over
202.05. Yeah, 202.05. I think it put him in the top 5 fastest times of all time or something.
There's already a fair bit of hype around him, and unfortunately, what we saw with Kelvin Kipton, so it's going to be so interesting, this whole race. I'm going to back Safan, and because she's just a competitor, but I know that it's not going to be easy. It is just going to be huge. I'm blown away by it. So
yeah, I am too. And I remember back last year, Safan Hussein got to about 12 kilometers, or maybe even less than that, and ended up pulling over on the side of the road, stretching out her legs, let the pack go in front. It was a debut marathon, and then went through and cleaned them up. So it's just crazy how far she's progressed in 12 months in this sport. It was last year that she did that, wasn't it? It was last year, wasn't it? The year before?
Yeah, it was
23,
2023.
2 years ago. 2 years ago. So it's amazing how far she's progressed. But going to be crazy because they'll have male paces. London has been a fast course in the past, and it has been one world records have been set on. So the women will have some very fast male paces pacing them, I'd imagine as well. So
they've got to find them. Apparently, that's one of the big conversation pieces. Who are going to be the male pacers, and will the ladies actually need them? But that's a conversation for another time.
Yep. And the other bit of news I've got this week is the Sydney ballot. So during the week, the Sydney ballot, some details on that was published in one of the Sydney newspapers. So thank you, Lucia, for sending that through. Some stats here. So 79,000 entries were entered in through the ballot this year for Sydney Marathon for about 35,000 spots. So what's that? That's just over 2 entrants for 1 spot. Runners entered the ballot from 156 different countries, which is up from 101 countries which were represented last year in the race. Athletes from the USA topped the list with the highest number of international entrants in the ballot, and runners are also coming from Indonesia, Hong Kong, UK, South America, and many other countries, obviously. I couldn't find any stats about the percentage of Australians who entered compared to the rest of the ballot. And I haven't heard any statistics around if Australians got preference over others in the ballot or not. I don't know. But it seems like anyone I know who's Australian generally got through on the ballot. Those who missed out, though, can still enter other races. So they're going to have a 4.2 kilometre race and a 10K race on the day or the day before. Entries will be available for those events in April as more details come out. So it's going to be an awesome event. Wayne Larden has come out, who's the race director, saying that he's expecting tens of thousands of spectators to travel and turn up to the event. So I'm expecting a really awesome day when Tara and I and Tony and you, Lucia, get down there and have a crack at it. So really looking forward to this one, and to see those numbers is really healthy for the event on sort of year one has been a major marathon.
And something, if I can just add to that as well, because I've been hearing in various run groups that people who have missed out, like there's chatter going around, I'll just jump the start line and run. You can't do that, people. You can't jump the start line and run because you will be pulled off course. It's Sydney's first year as being a major. So if anyone's listening to this, if you've got any thoughts of doing it, don't do it because we don't want Sydney to have that reputation. So there are other ways to do it via tour groups and even charities. So if you're going to do it right, please.
Yeah, make it count officially.
Yep.
Don't try and rip the system off. There's other marathons out there that you can also run at that time of year if you can't get it. I don't know why you'd run a marathon if you weren't entered into the race.
Exactly.
Firstly, you're not covered under the race insurance. So if you get an injury or anything like that, or get hit by something or whatever, you're not covered by any insurance. But secondly, it just wouldn't feel real to me. It'd feel more like a training run than anything else.
Agreed.
Yep.
And you're also taking away a medal from people that deserve that medal, like Tony and Sharon when they missed out on their medal in Boston. So, yes. Anyway, thank you very much for that.
That's the news.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you for the news tonight, Tim. So now it's time to talk to our special guest some more. Reece, we are pretty casual here, so I'm going to start with the first question, and we're just going to flow with it. So I already know the answers to most of these, but for our listeners, when did you get into running, or when did you first get into running, and why?
I was a runner at school. I was middle distance rep and cross country rep. Stopped once I left high school and came down to Brisbane to work and study. But after a while working in office jobs, getting fatter, getting unfit, decided just to go for runs around the block. Then my brother had done Bridge to Brisbane a few times, and one year some of the work colleagues wanted to go do Bridge to Brisbane. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll come along. This sounds like fun. I'll do what my brother had done, see if I can beat his time. Didn't manage to the first time, way off, which then motivated me to go back again and again until I finally beat it. And that started to sort of give me the bug. And one of my friends, Mel, her and I started just signing up for run after run after run. She'd do the 5K, I'd do the 10, until one of my neighbours found out that I ran a bit. He decided to join me in a few different events. Then he moved down to the Gold Coast at the top of the marathon course. And so one year he's like, oh, come down, we'll do the half. So all right, I trained a little bit more for the half, did that, finished it, went back to his place and watched all the marathoners come past. And we're like sitting there watching the back of packers going, these guys aren't a great deal different to us. Maybe we should give this a go one year. And Andre's like, yeah, definitely. Give it a go one year. A couple of months later, he's like, hey, I signed up for Gold Coast Marathon next year. You registering? And I'm like, he's 60, I'm 30. I'm like, I've got to now. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. I had to sign up because can't have the 60-year-old neighbour now beating me at doing marathons.
Good excuse to start. Good excuse, yes.
Yeah.
Now, Rhys, earlier it was mentioned that you've run more than 30 marathons, which is quite impressive considering your inconspicuous start to running marathons. So obviously Gold Coast was your first, but which ones have you sort of completed?
Yep, I've officially completed 9 Gold Coasts.
Wow.
Then did Brisbane and Sunshine Coast because they were close and easy to get to. And I'm a Sunny Coast boy from high school, so it was good to go run up at home, as it were. Then a group of us one year decided we'd take some people that wanted to do a marathon but never thought they can complete it in time. We found that Honolulu Marathon didn't have a time limit, so off to Honolulu to do the Honolulu Marathon. And that's now become a little addictive. I've been back a couple of times since. Did Adelaide marathons because I was born down in Adelaide, and so one year one of my friends and me went, hey, let's go down there, stay with my parents and do the Adelaide one. So that's majority of my marathons. There's also been some charity ones. Had a friend who was doing 7 marathons in 7 days for a charity. So she was doing them in Brisbane at Shorncliffe, so I'd go down and keep a company doing little bits and pieces, and then it suddenly became, well, actually, I'll just do a marathon this day with you, and you've got no one supporting you the next day. I'll come back and do another one.
Wow.
So what's
Lucia.
your actual total then, Reece? I know it's more than 30.
I'm not entirely exactly sure at the moment. But yeah, I think it's 30 official marathons and then a handful of other unofficial marathons on top of it.
I think the more you do, the harder it is to keep track of them because, I was thinking the other day, I forget my number. I think I'm at 14 or 15 or something, and I can probably tell you the order that they've done them in. But by the time you get up around, even the 20s, I guess, it's much easier to say, well, I've done 9 Gold Coast marathons and saying, well, I did the Gold Coast and then I did the Sunshine Coast and then the year after I did the Gold Coast. So I certainly get that. So just so you know, Lucia's on technically challenged tonight. So we've actually got to tell her when her question is. So Lucia, it's now your turn for the question.
Thank you, Tony. Now, Rhys, most of us on this podcast, probably excluding Tim, we'd classify as the back of the packer. Now, I'm sure you've met some great people along the way and some inspirational stories. Is there any that come to mind, and why?
The back of the pack's always interesting. There's always someone struggling, someone doing something different. There was a guy who used to do Gold Coast, Brisbane, and Sunshine Coast each year who has a traumatic brain injury. He got collected while riding a scooter overseas. Comes and does all of the marathons, as many marathons as he can, finishes them all the time. Picks up his drink cup at the first drink station and then uses that cup for the entire race. Just refills at each drink station. Just like, don't want to waste my cup. And he's always been great to hang out with at some of the events. When I did the Gold Coast double, there was a lady who had bottom of one of her arms amputated, so she had 1.5 arms, and I'm a horrible person. I have a horrible sense of humor. I'm like, 1.5 arms, 1.5 marathons. Well done. She thought it was funny. She came back and chased me down the next year and said, you're not doing the double this year. No, not this time. So at least she didn't take offense to my bad sense of humor. But you always find the way I do my running, I work hard at the start and then just try and hold on to the end. And so usually in the second half of the race, I'm more having fun and chatting to people and chatting to those who are struggling. And so sometimes you just find some people that just need a bit of assistance or a bit of company for a bit. So there's been a few. One of the Sunshine Coast Marathon videos has me chest bumping some lady after the finish line because I picked her up with 10k to go and trotted her in. So she's like, this is wonderful. Chest bump. And I'm like, really? I'm 6'2", you've got to jump off the ground and I can just stay standing.
And Rhys, that is exactly how we met as well. With one of the marathons I was doing where I was struggling at the back, and Rhys picked me up, and that's how we ended up meeting as well and being good friends ever since. So, it's a nice way that Rhys does it as well. It's very comforting, and he makes you realise that you don't have to be fast, you just have to complete it. And if you're not enjoying it, then don't do it. So, and Reece definitely makes it fun. So, yeah.
They are fun runs, aren't they?
Our fun runs.
Yes. Hey, Reece, what's been your favourite running event so far and why?
Probably still Honolulu Marathon. I guess there's a reason I've been back a couple of times, but it's not just not just the run. It's the whole. I think it's the whole. It's in December. It's like schoolies for marathoners. You get to go and do a marathon. There's no pressure. There's no time limit. You can take as long as you like. You can chat to people. You start at 5 o'clock in the morning with massive fireworks. You get to travel on the yellow American school buses to the start line. You get to be just in Hawaii and experiencing Hawaii. And it lines up with Pearl Harbor every year. So you also get a true American parade with cheerleaders and marching bands and hot rods and everything American just down the main street outside your hotel. It just used to be a whole full festival, which is great. And the next day, if you're walking around with the marathon medal, you get congratulated by pretty much anyone and everyone. It just becomes marathon central for a week and a half, which is just it's great to be at. Great climate, great weather.
And so I think Honolulu is on everyone's bucket list. It's certainly on mine.
Now, we've all loved the New York Marathon, and from what the guys told me, this was your first major. Tell us about your experience. What were your highlights and, if any, lowlights?
Highlights is it's New York, pretty much. One of the days leading up to it, I was sitting in an observation deck overlooking New York, and it just sort of dawned on me I was in New York. If it wasn't for running, I don't know that I would have ever bothered to travel to New York. It's a place of screen and TV and pop culture and everything. And it's just a great place to go and enjoy and experience, even if it's only ever the once. The marathon's super organized. It's so many people in the crowd. Even the boring bits of the course, which, sorry, New York, there's boring bits of your course. The first section through Brooklyn, it's dead straight. There's nothing to look at. It's just normal houses. But even there, the crowd's all around you. You never feel ever that it's quiet and alone. You go to the Jewish section, yes, it's quiet, but unlike the Gold Coast quiet section, there's people there. They're doing their shopping. They're just ignoring you. Marathon? What marathon? We'll just get on with our daily shopping. The whole thing is an experience. It didn't matter where I was, when it was. Seeing people cheering until it was dark. The pros started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and people are still hanging around and cheering into the dark for the back of the Packers, the real back of the Packers. You don't get that anywhere else. Sorry, every other marathon, but okay, some of the other majors might do it too, but other marathons who want to be something, trying to get your crowd to hang around and be willing to hang around for that long, that's hard. The only downside I had was my own physical fitness in the lead up, because I was coming back from injury. It was just, I just got to do what I can and get as far as I can. And other than that, there wasn't too many downsides. Other than I got given a packet of chips as I entered Queens, and I went, I don't need them yet, but I want to treasure this thing that I've just been given by some stranger on the side of the road. So I stuffed it in my vest. I went, yep, I'll leave it there until later. Later on, unfortunately, fortunately / unfortunately, met Kaz, who I walked the last 10K with because she was struggling a bit. And because I was just walking along, I'm like, I don't need the vest tightened up anymore. So I undid the vest.
No.
It was probably another K later that I've gone, I've just dropped the chips. Who knows where they are? Oh, bugger. My prize chips are gone.
So, despite losing your most treasured prize, apart from your medal, that you got through New York Marathon, you actually really enjoyed it. And as you said, it is somewhere that, even as a back of a packer like yourself, and coming back from injury, it's probably a really good one to be with as well, because you know that you don't have that pressure on yourself to actually make sure that you hit a cut-off time. So it's really good for you for that.
Exactly. And when I came across Kaz and she was struggling, because I knew I didn't have a cut-off time, there was no, do I stop and help, which I want to do, or because I want my star, do I proceed on? Other events where I've done them before. Oh no, this person needs help. I'm going to give them help. You've paid thousands of dollars to get to New York to do the marathon, and you desperately want your star. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure there's no cutoff, and I'm hoping I'm right because I'm now going to help this person to the end. When we got closer to the end and the police were kicking us up onto the footpath towards the end, I'm like, have I got this wrong? Am I have I risked my star badly here? It's like, I'll continue on. When I finally got home, logged into Abbott's. Can I get my star? Can I get my star? I can, yes. It's a week after I've done the marathon, but now I've confirmed that I didn't just throw my star away by deciding to help someone.
We know that feeling very well.
Yeah, that first star is an amazing feeling when you see your first star on the Web Abbott's platform. But then you start to realize how big the journey is when you start to look at the other marathons on that page going, oh my God, now I've committed to something and it is massive. What am I going to do? So, yeah.
Should be committed.
Yeah.
But the work you did with Kaz there was just so well appreciated, Reece. And, you know, that was the first time Sharon and I met you was in New York. And, you know, to be talking with you as we're, you know, there was a stage here at Brooklyn, I think, where we were pretty much level pegging because we walk, run, and you were just, your spirits were high. You were taking photos along the way. You were sharing some little anecdotes and all this sort of stuff. And then when we're having the celebratory drink, to see and to hear the gratefulness that Kaz had for yourself, it just really makes you realize why we love our community and the people that we meet along the way. So inspirational. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone that's ever run with Reece or knows Reece will know how caring he is and what he will give up to help somebody else as well. So, and it's a really good thing to have. And most runners are like that too, which is great. Reece, I know you've got a massive year lined up this year for yourself. One of those things is you're actually an Atlas ambassador as well. So did you want to explain, what your Atlas ambassadorship is and also what your big year is that you've got coming up?
Yep, so I'm a member of the Atlas Collective, which is a bunch of runners who support the Team Atlas in running their events. So Atlas looks after, they started the Sunshine Coast Marathon, then took over looking after Brisbane Marathon. They now also do Cairns Marathon and Hobart Marathon. They also do some other trail events and triathlon events as well. But their main four are Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Hobart, and Cairns marathons. So the Atlas Collective is basically just the ambassadors that you get for most races, but they have specifically chosen not just top elites. They want back of the packers. They want people who are going to support throughout the field to help everyone get to the finish. So I've been now with them for 5 years. When I did my application, it was, I am a back of the packer. This is what I do. I hang out at the back. I cheer. I'll be there to the end. I will be horribly slow. And they've decided to keep me on, which is great. So part of this year is to try and complete their 4-star medal, their version of the Abbott's medal for completing all of their marathons. I've done Brisbane and Sunshine Coast quite a few times. So now, unfortunately for me, it's trying to do Hobart and Cairns. Amongst my other events, Cairns is going to be a bit of a struggle because it's a week after Gold Coast, which doesn't help. So Gold Coast gets to be a warm-up event for Cairns.
The 4-star medal, the 4-star medal looks remarkably similar to the 6-star medal that Abbott's does.
It does, that's for sure. But a little quicker to get, a little bit more local, a bit cheaper on the airfares to achieve. Plus, as a Brisbane person, Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, nice and easy ones to tick off for that one. Hobart, I grew up in Hobart from when I was 5 to 10, so for me it'll also be a little bit of going home and going back and visiting the old house and seeing what it looks like these days.
Absolutely. So you're chasing the 4-star this year, and I take it the 6-star or the 7-star or the 9-star, wherever we end up with, is also part of that motivation. But is their motivation to achieve the 6-star, and what is the underlying reason you want to do that, if there is?
Yeah, I've got part of it this year is I've got 3 marathons as part of the 6-star. I'm doing London, Berlin, and Chicago this year. Well, hopefully completing all 3. I've wanted to do the Abbott's 6-star for a very long time. When people ask, what's your bucket list things? Abbott's was it. To be able to complete the majors, marathons that, well, this year, Kipchoge is even doing London with me. So it's running on those marathons that the elites have done. It's not just, I've run a marathon, same distance as them. I'm running the events that the elites have done, the marathons that are famous, the marathons that family and friends who know nothing about running will recognise. Boston, London, New York, especially. My work colleagues heard that I was going to New York last year, and they're like, "You're doing the New York Marathon?" Like, they don't know marathons. They don't know what marathons are where. New York, they knew. As soon as it was suggested that I was going to New York, they're like, "Yeah, we've got a suspicion you're doing it not just for touristing." And that's why I want to do them. They're iconic. They're not just a marathon. I'm not going to win a marathon, but I can go and complete the Abbott's 6-star and try and get it. So I've been trying to do it for years. I wanted to sort of start with Boston, because if I couldn't do Boston, what was the point? So I'd sort of been trying to get into Boston for years. But then Tim and Tara were completing theirs in New York, so it's like, well, I'll start with a different one. And then talking to Travelling Fit, easiest way to get into something like Boston is with the travelling group and prove that you're doing the 6-star. So, well, let's go do all the other ones first and finish with Boston instead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So, Rhys, you're also known as the Running Paparazzi. Can you tell me how that came about?
as with all great things running, it starts at parkrun, doesn't it? Sorry, Tony. When I first started running, I was doing parkrun, got injured, rolled an ankle or something. I can't remember what it was. And so I took up the volunteer task. I thought, well, time to do my volunteering and tick off as many as I could while I was injured. So I was a little bit of a budding photographer at the moment. At the time, I liked taking photos, so I pulled out the camera and sat and took photos each park run. Some people seem to like it. When I went back to running again, they're like, oh, now we don't get your photos at parkrun. So I bought a GoPro and started taking photos while running. And so one of my friends nicknamed me the Running Paparazzi because here I was running and taking photos. And it's just sort of progressed from there. I then got asked to be a photographer at Mother's Day Fun Run and a few other events. And it's just sort of snowballed from there, getting better gear, taking better photos, getting more and more into it. As more people seemed to like the photos that I was taking, then it just became something more and more worthwhile doing. And certainly on occasions where I can't run, or I've done a marathon one week and there's an event the next week, it's like, well, I'm not running both. I'll take the rest day and cheer others from the sideline and take some happy snaps, and hopefully they'll appreciate them. Race photos generally tend to be a little bit expensive, so if I can give someone some freebies every now and then, good. When I'm paid to do it, then hopefully I just take a decent quality photo. I've had a few friends who have had photos taken by the pros where they haven't really paid attention to what they're taking a photo of. To my friends Sam and Darren, they run together. They ran to the finish line hand in hand, husband and wife, and the photo is of one of them, and the other is cut off. And you're just like, did you not pay attention to what you were looking at that was running towards you? So my photos do tend to be a little wider than the tight race photos you normally get. I try to get, when there's runs along Brisbane River, cool, let's get the Story Bridge or something else in the background. Show where that photo is from so that it's not just another running photo that looks the same as every other running photo you've got, where unless you read the bib, you don't know which event it was from.
Yeah.
Especially some of us wear the same gear every run. Then you look at your race photos from the year and you go, oh, which event was this one from?
So if you're looking for Reece, if he's out on the course, you've now got a bright orange poncho that you wear when you take photos,
do.
yeah?
Yes.
And a pink one. He's got pink as well.
And a pink one as well. So
Got the
Yes.
pink
you can
New
see
York
him on the
jackets
sidelines.
and- Yeah, the New York poncho will definitely get some use for the photography. Nice and bright, easy to find, but also keep me warm and dry.
There you go.
Excellent. So Reece, I guess as well, you're a man of many hats, but you've got me hooked onto this thing recently called Night Nav. Now, it's orientation, and now you've been doing it for a long, long time, and it's fantastic for me, who is somebody who is very directionally challenged, is probably the best way to put it. You're probably the most patient teacher of anything ever. You would have made a really, really good teacher actually for this reason. But do you want to describe what night nav or night orientation or orientation in general is for those that don't know?
Yep, so Night Nav and Map Run that I run on Sundays is basically an entry level into orienteering. It's sort of like park run for orienteers. It's a short weekly event of orienteering. Orienteering, generally speaking, is point to point. You get given a map with a set of checkpoints, and you work out how you're going to get from the checkpoint to checkpoint. Instead of like a trail race where you've got a set path, this is where you go. Orienteering is about deciding where you're going to go to get there. Do you want to go the hard-packed concrete path that's longer, or do you want to just bush bash straight through the bush on a shorter path? Depending on how you run, depends on which way is actually going to be quicker. If you're really, really fast, then probably going the hard path that's slightly longer will be quicker than bush bashing. If you're a bit slower, then the direct route, shorter route, might be quicker. For Night Nav and Map Run, we changed it up a little bit, and it's more just a giant scavenger hunt. We set out a map that's, say, 6 square Ks with 20 different checkpoints. Each checkpoint has a different score associated to it, and the idea is to pick up as many or as few checkpoints as you want to create the best score you can in 40 minutes. So it's a lot more about thinking where you're going than it is just about pace. Sure, the fast guys will still generally end up at the top, but for the back of the packers, it's a great event that you can compare yourself to other back of the packers, but you can also actually take down some of the speedies. One of my good friends, Erica, when she first started at this, I would beat her on a regular basis. She's a minute and a half a K quicker than I am, or 2 minutes a K quicker than I am, but she'd get herself lost. So she'd do twice as much distance as me and get less points. So it's a great event to get you running in while not thinking about running, because you're thinking about where you're going. So I find it a very natural way of running, because you stop thinking about your pace, your stride, your breathing. You just run and you just think about where you're going. And when I'm out running, I go, do I want to go up that hill? No. Orienteering though, well, there's 30 points up that hill. I'm going to go up that hill. And so it becomes a giant interval and hill session that you're not even considering is an interval or hill session. You run from checkpoint to checkpoint, you pull out your map, you look at it, and all right, sprint again. Then pull out your map, look again, sprint again.
Wow.
And then you're like, oh, there's a hill. Oh, there's 20 points up there. Run up the hill. Hills that you just go, no, I'm never going up that hill. In that, no, you go up them. Been up some of the steepest hills in Brisbane because, there's a checkpoint at the top.
Sounds awesome, I think. So, we've been talking about superstitions and mantras on our podcast now just recently. So when things get tough for you during a race and, you're hurting or your knee locks up or whatever other dramas that we tend to face during a race, do you have a mantra that keeps you going?
Not so much a mantra other than just finish lines over finish times. Doesn't matter how long it takes me to get there, just get there. I used to have a set of rules for running marathons. Rule number 1, don't die. Rule number 2, really, don't die. Rule number 3, you've still got to work the next week. So, look after whatever injury you've got. And then it's finish after that. Then maybe look for a good finish time. But what's the time matter? Most of my medals, I don't get tabs for my medals because then they don't say how long it took.
So don't die is a really good mantra.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Lucia, your final question.
Now, you've mentioned park run a bit. What's your home park run, and what would be your most ideal park run to do, and why?
My home park run is Rocks Riverside in Brisbane. It's nice out and back. Path's quite wide, so we get about 600 most weeks.
Wow.
So it's one of the bigger ones in Brisbane these days. But it's quite a wide path early on. So it's a lot of the time it doesn't actually feel that bad. I've guided a blind runner there before, and yeah, overtaking people is a bit of a problem later in the event when the path gets a little bit narrower, but it's not usually been too much of a problem for us. My ultimate park run is, well, I think it's most park run people's ultimate park run, and so I will be there later this year while in London, going to good old Bushy and go to the home of park run, because what's better than going to where it started?
True.
It's a good one too. I can tell you, Tara and I loved Bushy Park Run.
And it's got a nice wide start for you.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
wide start.
I don't think there's going to be much in the way of running there, but it will certainly be enjoyable. The paparazzi might be out in force with his camera.
Hey, Reece, tell us about a typical training week. What does a training week look like for you?
A good training week usually involves one of our night orienteering events, so that I can get a little bit of speed and a little bit of hill work in. Park run on Saturday. When I'm feeling good, try and use that as a bit of a speed session. And on Sunday, do a long run. Amongst that, some days it's just a walk. Getting out, getting active, stretching everything, making sure that there's no niggles hanging around too much. I've got a boxing set up in the garage, so sometimes it'd be a bit of cross training of going back and doing some boxing on that, or jumping in the pool. I used to have, and I have to get another one, a swim tether, which is quite good to tie myself up in the pool, and that way it doesn't matter how long my pool is, I can just keep swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming, to do a little bit of sort of cross training. But mostly it's just getting out and just trying to get active. There's a lot of the time there's not much set plan to it. My goal for most of my events is just to be fit enough to last the distance. Unlike you, Dim and Tara, I don't tend to do the weekly big long runs and a set plan. I do go more with the flow. From my old house, it used to be running the city and back, which would be a good 10, 15k, or if I didn't have anything that was going to be following on to the day, oh well, I'll just add another 10 in. If it ends up being a walk more than a run for part of it, fine. That's just, it's time and legs, getting feet and legs used to the fact that I'm going to be out plodding along for a long period of time. One of my friends, when we used to live near each other, Friday night, cool, hey, want to go for a walk? Sure, we'll walk into town, walk into the city, grab a bite, walk home, or just go in, take some photos of something, walk home, and just spend time on feet. Getting feet and legs just used to going that long. So that come race day, you're feeling less pain. Not no pain, but less pain. And when you start to fatigue, you know what it feels like, and you know you can just, okay, I can keep plodding. I've done this before. Since I'm not going for any goal times, it's just making sure that I can make the cutoff time. Sure, most of the time I'm well under it, but it's just keeping yourself fit, keeping the injuries down. So then when I was doing lots of marathons back in the day, a few years ago, it was about just my fitness and staying as injury free as I could. The last couple of years, that hasn't quite been the case. Work's gotten in the way of my regular exercise. I wasn't doing as much, and because I wasn't doing as much exercise and wasn't staying as fit, the injury started to creep in. So goal this year is now to not be pushing anything too hard, get the fitness back, and just try and get out and do exercise as much as I can every day, if I can. now got a new track near my house that's 7K. So cool. Finished work for the day. Sweet. Got nothing urgent that I need to go do. Cool. Out for 7K. Walk or a run, doesn't matter. Just get out and get some exercise.
And it's a good way to be, because it's not only good for you for your marathon training, it's also good mentally and for your heart, your body, for everything else, just to get some sort of exercise in every single day. It doesn't matter what you do. It's going to help with your marathon training, but it's also going to help with your mental and your physical health as well. So what Rhys is saying is very important to everybody, to keep themselves going, whether or not you're a 5K runner, a 2K runner, or a marathon runner. Just to do something every single day is really, really important. So Rhys, thank you so much for all of your insight today. It's been really, really good, really informative, and hopefully for all of our listeners, they've got some really good information out of that. Before we wrap this one up, we've got our Fast 6, but now that we're doing the 7th marathon, we've got the Fast 7. So, Tony, we will hand this over to you because this is your segment, if you want to explain the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rhys, you are the first guest to do the Fast 7. There was a boxing match between me and Lucia around what is going to be the 7th question, and I know that everyone is on the edge of their seats, and we'll see what happens. But it's a fast question, and it's a really quick answer. So hopefully you would have heard the Fast 6. You're going to be surprised by the Fast 7. All right. So question number 1, Rhys: podcast or music?
Music. As many people know, because I have a tendency to sometimes carry a speaker during marathons. Definitely music. No one wants to hear a podcast from my speaker.
No, best running it. No, I did say quick answers, right? So best running advice ever given to you?
Finish time, not finish. Finish line, not finish time.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
You can do it. Anyone can do it. Just
uphill or okay, cool.
Right foot.
Uphill or downhill?
Downhill.
Gels or blocks?
Don't like that.
Blocks.
Blocks. Your favorite shoes to run in?
Hoka Bondis.
Oh, okay. And if you were to sum up your running journey to date in one word, what would that one word be?
Awesome.
Excellent. It's certainly been an experience, that's for sure, and an awesome one at that. So I think you passed. So well done.
There you go.
Back to you, Tara.
Thank you. Excellent.
The 7th question has been revealed. There you go.
Well done, Rhys. Excellent. So before we finish up, we're going to get, is it Tim's tip, or are we going to get Lucia's? Okay, so it's going to be Tim's tip this week. So Tim, what is your tip this week?
Thanks, Tara. My tip this week is you don't have to be a fast runner to be a runner. We've just heard Rhys talk about being at the back of the pack, about the memories he's made, about the memories he's created, the friendships he's made, and anyone can run, right? You just said it yourself, Rhys. Anyone can run. Speed is not that important. You don't need to worry about your pace. You just need to turn up and have a go. Focus on distance, not pace. And running at the back of the pack is so much fun, and it's something that everyone should try to do at least once. Don't always focus on pace. Try to link back to the back. Have some fun at the back. It's party at the back. That's what they always say. And it takes so much of the stress off you when you turn up to a race and you're not worried about what pace you're going to be running every kilometre at, or what time you need to be at the halfway point or anything like that. You just go and relax and enjoy it, and you actually take in so much more at the back of the pack than you do when you're running fast. So my tip this week is go out and try and be a slow runner at the back of the pack and have some fun.
Excellent. Good tip, Tim, because then you can get to listen to people playing music and watching them take photos. So,
That's right.
as this episode is now about to end, we will hand it over to Tony, and he'll talk to us about what's happening for next week.
Thanks, Tara. And I think you are going to be our expert guest next week, just quietly, with your expert knowledge on this particular topic. It's all about running with your dog, and it can be a heap of fun. It's good for you, and it's also good for your dog. But do you know what you should and shouldn't be doing when it comes to running with your dog? So on next week's show, Tara is going to take us on a journey on how to safely run with your dog so that you're not putting undue stress on them or fatigue and injury onto the dog as well as on yourself. So as usual, yeah, I'm not going to say that, Tim.
I can't see the wrong sheet.
Yeah. And just for the listeners out there, I will read it just so you can understand my reluctance here. So Tim has written, as usual, it should be another woof-tastical episode. Okay, back to you, Tara.
Oh, no, that is very funny. Okay, sorry. I'll contain myself. Thank you for that, Tony. As this episode ends, it has been an awesome show. So we've had a lot of fun tonight catching up with you, Reece. Thank you very much. We hope you've had a great time on the show, and we can't wait to see how you go with London, Berlin, and Chicago, and all your other races as well along the way. Guys, thank you all for joining us tonight. Hope you've had a good week of running. Hope you all have a good week of running this week, and we will see you next week. And as always, we love recording these podcasts for you. We love hearing your feedback, and so please like this episode wherever you're listening to it. Leave some comments or send us a message via our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger, or via our email address at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. Maybe you can tell us what order you're running the 7 majors in. So video of this episode will be available at Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Running.
Happy running. See ya.